He turned penny stocks into a $200 million empire. He spent less than 2 years in prison. Then Hollywood made him a legend. This is Jordan Belfort, the con man who robbed America and became rich all over again. And here's the twisted part. We still celebrate him. Queens, New York, 1962. A blue-collar neighborhood where ambition meant steady work and realistic dreams. But one kid didn't believe in limits. Jordan Belfort was built different. Can I get a lemon ice? Sure thing, but buy 2, tell your buddies, and I'll cut you a deal. How old are you anyway? 16, and I'm gonna be a millionaire. That summer, he cleared $20,000 selling Italian ice. Most teenagers would have bought a muscle car and called it success. Not Jordan. He enrolled in dental school. On day 1, the dean addressed the incoming class. If wealth is your motivation, you've chosen the wrong career. Jordan didn't argue. He simply stood up and left because he wasn't there to fill cavities. He was there to get filthy rich, and this wasn't the path. Next chapter, meat sales. After dropping out, Jordan launched a door-to-door meat and seafood operation. Yes, seriously. Wait, you're selling what? Premium cuts, ma'am, flash frozen, no hormones, better prices than your grocery store. I don't consume red meat. Perfect. Let me introduce you to our wild-caught salmon selection. It was chaotic, unglamorous, but surprisingly profitable. 6 figures monthly in revenue with no warehouse, no fleet, no infrastructure, just Jordan, grinding relentlessly with defrosting steaks melting in his backseat. Then reality hit. Missed deliveries, spoiled inventory, unpaid bills stacking up like dominoes. The business collapsed within months, but from that failure, Jordan discovered his true gift. The product was irrelevant. Steaks, surfboards, securities didn't matter. He could sell air if you gave him a phone and a prospect. The con artist had found his calling. Jordan didn't need better merchandise, he needed better margins. Enter Wall Street. He secured an entry position at L.F. Rothschild, a prestigious firm with power suits, sales quotas, and bathroom cocaine. The 80s were in full effect. Here he tasted real wealth, authentic greed, and raw power. He absorbed how markets functioned, how traders operated, and critically, how they manipulated. Then, October 1987 arrived, Black Monday. The phones went silent. Brokers watched helplessly as the ticker collapsed. The market imploded. Jordan got fired. While everyone else panicked, Jordan spotted something different, opportunity. He discovered penny stocks, pink sheet junk no legitimate broker would touch, unregulated, worthless companies. But here was the beautiful part, 50% commissions, same sales pitch, 10 times the profit. No MBA required, just aggressive cold calling and a silver tongue. So Jordan grabbed the phone and dialed some unsuspecting guy in the Midwest. He told Mr. Anderson that the company was microscopic right now, but they were developing technology about to revolutionize an entire industry. He said it was ground floor access, pre-institutional money, completely off Wall Street's radar. The smart money hadn't discovered this yet, but when they do, explosive growth. We are projecting minimum 500% returns. You invest now at 90 cents per share, and 6 months from today, you will not be thanking me over the phone. You will be thanking me from your vacation home in Hawaii. Here is what we are doing. I am securing 5,000 shares in your name. We good? Mr. Anderson said he was uncertain about the company's actual business model. Jordan replied that you do not need to understand their business model, sir. You need to understand the opportunity. That is how intelligent investors operate. They move before the masses catch on. So what is it going to be? First in line or reading about this in the Wall Street Journal next year thinking, damn, I should have listened? $4,000. One phone call. That's all it took. No regulations, no oversight, no conscience, just cold calls and pure manipulation. He had found his kingdom. Now he would build his empire. 1989. Jordan Belfort wasn't working alone anymore. Enter Danny Porush. He was a fast-talking, hard-partying hustler from Long Island, with the charm of a used car salesman and the morals of a loan shark. He did not have Wall Street pedigree. Some days he did not seem like he was from this dimension, but the man could close deals. Jordan recognized something valuable in him: ambition, devotion, and zero ethical boundaries. Together, they were lethal. Jordan provided the strategy, Danny delivered the chaos. From that chaos, they constructed their criminal enterprise. Welcome to Stratton Oakmont. The name sounded established, like century-old money and mahogany conference rooms. Reality? A dingy strip mall boiler room with bad lighting, cheap furniture, and absolutely no regulatory supervision. The initial recruits were not financial professionals. They were not even qualified. Bartenders, community college dropouts, neighborhood delinquents. But Jordan did not want credentials. He wanted desperation. He did not need educated employees. He needed ruthless closers. Then came the indoctrination. Jordan created a system called the straight line method, a psychological warfare technique designed to transform nervous amateurs into high-pressure sales assassins. He trained them to obliterate hesitation, eliminate doubt, and shepherd a target from introduction to signed check in one relentless conversation. Soon the office developed a pulse, frantic, deafening, intoxicating. Phones rang constantly, money poured endlessly. The atmosphere was electrifying, the egos inflated, and the cash multiplied. But Stratton's genius wasn't merely the sales technique, it was target selection. They hunted the vulnerable investors, working-class families, desperate retirees, people legitimate Wall Street ignored. Stratton sold them fantasies wrapped in artificial urgency, packaged as guaranteed returns, supported by fabricated data. Initially, they pushed obscure penny stocks, pink sheet garbage with ticker symbols nobody recognized, companies that barely existed beyond their own marketing materials. But once money started flooding in, the schemes evolved. Now it wasn't just phantom companies, it was legitimate initial public offerings. They would acquire enormous blocks of dirt-cheap shares, then transform the sales floor into a propaganda machine. Call after call, lie after lie. They manufactured artificial demand, inflated the stock price, then liquidated everything at peak value, leaving thousands of investors destroyed. Wall Street called it a pump-and-dump scheme. At Stratton Oakmont, they called it business as usual. By the early 90s, the firm had exploded. Stratton wasn't just a brokerage anymore, it was a circus. The office, a madhouse of screaming voices, celebration horns, toxic masculinity, designer suits, and enough illegal substances to hospitalize an elephant. Jordan constructed a culture where intimidation and obedience were everything. Top performers were worshipped, massive bonuses, luxury trips, expensive watches thrown across the room like confetti. Underperformers were destroyed, terminated, replaced immediately. Then came the debauchery. Strippers in executive meetings, champagne flooding office equipment, lines of cocaine off corporate documents. Nothing was off limits. Not the company vehicles, not the office furniture, not even basic human decency. Someone once weaponized a fire extinguisher with whipped cream and vodka. Jordan had evolved into a cult leader in expensive Italian suits. He purchased helicopters, named his yacht after his wife Naomi, owned multiple mansions, exotic cars, luxury watches, and throughout everything he preached the same gospel: winning is everything and losers are worthless. On paper, Stratton Oakmont appeared successful. They launched companies publicly, raised hundreds of millions. The firm expanded faster than seemed possible, but underneath, it was built entirely on deception. Because when you can't sell reality, you sell the illusion. And Jordan Belfort had constructed an empire doing precisely that. By 1994, Stratton Oakmont was dominating, taking companies public, moving massive capital, attracting national visibility. But beneath the success, the foundation was crumbling. The firm's strategy for initial public offerings was aggressive, predictable, and increasingly dangerous. The same formula was repeated: overhype the offering, oversell the promise, and exit before the truth arrived. This time, they were not invisible. The Securities and Exchange Commission had identified a growing pattern of suspicious activity. Complaints multiplied from investors who purchased shares at $7 and watched them crater to 30 cents. Internally, some brokers started questioning what they were doing. They were promoting stocks with zero revenue, no product, and sometimes not even functioning contact information. Management's response was simple: close deals or leave. And as the firm grew, so did the complexity of concealing the money. Millions were funneled offshore through layered shell corporations. Some accounts were registered under Jordan Belfort's relatives overseas. Others were hidden in Swiss banks under non-existent company names. At one point, Jordan transported funds using couriers, including a housekeeper smuggling cash in concealed garments. Jordan labeled it asset protection. The FBI labeled it money laundering. Inside the firm, conditions deteriorated. Drug consumption, once recreational, became an operational necessity. Quaaludes slowed reactions. Cocaine accelerated them again. Employees collapsed during sales calls. One broker seized on the trading floor. Violence erupted over commissions over women or out of pure aggression. Multiple employees required physical removal after violent incidents. And Jordan? He was deteriorating faster than his company. His marriage was imploding. She would discover pills hidden everywhere, drug paraphernalia in bathrooms. He once demolished his Ferrari while intoxicated with his toddler daughter as passenger. Then the yacht disaster, June 1996. Against explicit warnings from the captain, Jordan demanded they sail from Italy to Sardinia during dangerous weather. He was drunk, he was high, and he was convinced of his invincibility. The Naomi began sinking in the Mediterranean Sea. On board were Jordan, his wife, their daughter, and over $2 million in jewelry and narcotics. An Italian Navy rescue was required. The yacht was destroyed. Jordan survived physically, but something inside him died. Back in New York, the walls closed in. Journalists from Forbes and the Wall Street Journal investigated. Former employees talked. But the most dangerous investigator was Gregory Coleman, an FBI financial crimes agent. Coleman did not just notice red flags, he smelled blood. He quietly assembled evidence. He retrieved Stratton's sales scripts, subpoenaed communication records, and traced property purchases that exceeded reported income. He discovered Jordan withdrawing enormous cash amounts systematically, cash that was laundered through casinos and art transactions. Coleman understood the pattern. Eventually, so would Jordan. What Jordan did not realize was that his own brokers had turned informant. One turned after being caught on separate charges. Another flipped after being burned by unpaid compensation. They wore surveillance equipment, recorded conversations, and surrendered documentation. As pressure intensified, more betrayed him, not out of morality, but out of a survival instinct. October 1996. Federal agents raided Stratton Oakmont. They arrived at dawn. Phones ripped from desks, file cabinets emptied, computer hard drives seized, employees interrogated. Someone attempted document destruction, another tried escaping with shredded contracts. Irrelevant. The FBI had sufficient evidence, but Jordan was not finished. Early 1997, while under active investigation and explicitly prohibited from moving assets, he transferred $2 million to Switzerland. The transaction was traced. The conversation was recorded. That single wire transfer became the thread that unraveled everything. The chase ended. The collapse began. By late 1998, Belfort had exhausted options. The FBI possessed recordings. The SEC held documentation. The empire, constructed on lies and manipulation, had finally disintegrated. He faced 30 years in federal prison. Wire fraud, securities fraud, money laundering. The charges alone could destroy him. So Jordan did what he had always done. He sold, not stocks this time, but information. He cooperated. He became an informant. He wore surveillance equipment, and systematically the people who had worshipped him were surrendered like inventory. More than 30 employees were indicted. Brokers, partners, friends, some joined Stratton straight from high school. They learned from Jordan's playbook. Now they would pay for following it. Some served longer sentences than him. Jordan received 22 months in minimum security. No fences, no cells. The guards did not carry weapons. He played tennis in the mornings, exercised in the afternoons, and in the evenings he wrote. There he met Tommy Chong, the comedian serving time for selling paraphernalia online. Jordan shared everything: the drugs, the yacht, the cash smuggling, the lies that became lifestyle. Tommy was not horrified. He was entertained. He suggested documenting it. So Jordan did. In 2007, he published The Wolf of Wall Street, a memoir that reads more like celebration than confession. No apologies, no accountability, just yachts, excess, fraud, and punchlines. The public consumed it eagerly. He sold film rights, he wrote sequels. In 2013, Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio transformed it into a blockbuster. The same man who defrauded investors now entertained them on screen. Audiences laughed, critics celebrated, and Jordan Belfort, convicted felon, became a cultural icon. But his victims did not receive movie deals. They did not receive closure. Most never recovered financially. A teacher who lost retirement savings, a veteran who invested everything, a family who mortgaged their home for the next opportunity. They were left with debt and devastation. The court ordered Jordan to pay $110 million in restitution. To this day, only a fraction has been paid. The remainder disappeared into offshore accounts, property trusts, and legal loopholes. He says he is working on it. The victims are still waiting. But Jordan is thriving. Motivational speaker now, sales consultant, podcast personality. He sells success seminars, teaches business ethics, and commands stages globally. He wears the wolf like it is achievement, not the scarlet letter it should represent. He did not just evade justice, he monetized it. He transformed 22 months into publishing deals. He converted fraud into fame. And maybe the most disturbing part, we applauded. He said, "I was guilty of being greedy, but so is everybody else." Maybe that is why he succeeded. Because fundamentally, we never wanted him punished. We wanted to be him.